This, guys, is for 300 subscribers. Thank you all so much, and enjoy the video. 10 redstone tips that I think any redstone beginner needs to know. Now, this is all from my experience, so none of it's like from the internet or something, you know? Well, basically, I should have known these tips when I started at redstone, and so you should too. Now, even if you think you're a bit of a noob at redstone, you must at least know what it does. It powers stuff, a bit like electricity, though of course it doesn't really relate much. But going back to the redstone stuff, if you really have no clue about redstone, then I'll be surprised, because only my subscribers really watch these videos, and I've posted a fair few redstone videos, though in your defense, they haven't been the best. Anyhow, if you don't know what redstone is for some reason, then I would highly recommend you stop watching this video and hop onto a channel like Mumbo's, which has a ton of really cool redstone tutorials just for beginners. And he most definitely knows more than me. I know this will affect my watch time, but who cares? Because if you don't take at least a smidget of your time to understand redstone and you play Minecraft, boy are you gonna miss out on a lot of good stuff. Trust me on that. Okay, enough talking. Whether you're a beginner or not, for you guys still watching, let's go on to redstone tip number 1. So we all know that redstone needs to be connected to something to power stuff, but did you know that you only need to power the block next to it to power anything beside it? Yup, blocks can also carry redstone signals, and if you power them, anything that's connected to either of its sides will be powered. This also works for redstone beneath a powered block. If you're wise with it, this mechanic can be supremely useful if you want to make a contraption as compact and as efficient as possible. There is one little caveat though, and that's that the redstone blocks themselves can't power blocks next to them the same way powered redstone dust can, which is a shame, but just keep that in mind. Tip number 2. Redstone torches can look like they do nothing other than just power the block until you pick them back up, but they can do much more than that. If you place a redstone torch anywhere on a block and power the block itself, the redstone torch will turn off. Now this is really fundamental for piston doors. You see, the redstone torch is turned on and this powers both the pistons, therefore closing the doors. But when you power the block it's on, it turns off and so the doors open. You see? Redstone torches are actually pretty useful, and it's not just piston doors. If you part this mechanic on top of each other, you could move a redstone signal vertically up. Of course, there's a lot more uses for this, but you just need to really know about this mechanic in order to make your own. Tip number 3. I really think I should have mentioned this earlier, but I mention it now. When you power redstone dust with something like a lever or a button, the redstone signal will have what's called a signal strength. A maximum of 15 is the maximum signal strength, and most redstone emitters give off this level of strength. As you extend the redstone dust trail from whatever is emitting it, you'll see the colour get darker and darker until you find it's the same colour as if you just place a normal redstone dust down. And this is because the power being emitted from the item will gradually decrease the longer it goes on for. So always make sure you keep up the strong signal strength all the way to what you're powering, and this, my friends, is where redstone repeaters come in. Tip number 4. Redstone repeaters are really useful, but they're especially useful if you want to direct a strong signal strength to what you want to power. If you place the redstone repeater in a circuit, it will turn whatever signal strength you put into it into a maximum of 15, which, as we talked about in the last tip, is the maximum possible signal strength anything can emit. So you can carry on that fresh signal all the way. Repeaters can also be really handy if you want to give something a delay, so just right click it a bunch of times to set a delay up to 4 in-game ticks. Now when you place down a normal repeater, it's already set to a delay of 1 tick, which is approximately 0.1 seconds, so a maximum delay you can do with one repeater is 0.4 seconds, aka 4 ticks. You don't really need to worry about this too much, just choose the number of ticks you feel best is for your setup. If you want a big delay, you put on more repeaters and make sure they're facing the right way, otherwise your signal won't get through. An easy trick is to face the way you want your signal to go before placing down the repeater. Now that's sorted, let's get on to tip number 5. Redstone loops can be tricky to be made compact, but if you don't care about delay in your signal and want the fastest reliable loop, then you just need to stick to 2 observers facing into each other and voila, you have yourselves a working loop. Now this works because the observer detects changes in the block, whether if it moves or emits a redstone signal. Now if you put 2 of these together, detecting one another, emitting redstone signals, you get an infinite loop. I hope that makes sense. Tip number 6. Now obviously, if you want to make high-up contraptions, you're going to need to somehow get your redstone signal down low sometime in the future. Well, you're lucky to watch this part of the video, guys, because I can tell you just about how. A glass block in Minecraft is a what? a transparent block, and say for some reason it can allow redstone to go underneath its edges. Because of this, you no longer need to make a long spiral staircase just to get your signal down to the bottom. Even if you use this for a 1 block drop, it still saves some time and not to mention room. And along the same lines, you can kind of do the same thing with slabs if you have any handy, is if you place them carefully, putting a block and then a slab on top half of that block, and then deleting the block and doing the same thing above or below it, you can allow redstone to be powered on it even though it's not visibly connecting. Weird, I know, but it gets the job done. Tip number 7. Now this short fact is just something you need to know before you try something dumb. Pistons, regardless of type, can only move a maximum of 12 blocks whether they seem light or heavy. So yeah, just don't try moving the whole world anytime soon. There are also some blocks that can't be moved by a piston at all, and those will be in the link in the description because they're quite a lot. Whether you're on Bedrock or Java, there are some, so you can check them out in the description below. And let's get on to tip number 8. This is an interesting one, and it concerns hoppers. In case you don't know, a hopper is a block that stores items like a chest, but its main purpose is to pass things along to bigger storage blocks like chests and shulker boxes. When you power a hopper with a redstone signal in any way, it will lock the hopper until the signal is turned off. And so if you combine this with redstone tip number 2, you have yourselves an auto storage sorter. Well, kind of. There's more to it, of course, but you can, if you want to learn more about that, you can search them up on YouTube. I suggest you learn how to make one of those and put them in your survival world. They can help a lot. Tip number 9. Although they aren't used much nowadays, daylight sensors can be excellent if you want to have lighting turn on automatically in the dark. But did you know if you right click your daylight sensor, it will turn from nighttime detection mode to daylight detection mode? Well, that's what I'd call it anyway. This means once it turns day, it will constantly emit a redstone signal until it turns dark again. Wait, no, it's the other way around, isn't it? It will emit a constant redstone signal in the night until it turns day again. So this is pretty much what you want if you have street lamps that detect night or day, but you can combine this mechanic with redstone tip number 1 and get creative with global doors that can be accessed by anyone in the day, but once it's night, closed to prevent any mobs getting in. This helps a lot if you want to conserve villagers' population and not turn them all into zombies while you're AFK. I mean, that would be horrible. Tip number 10. The dispenser and the dropper look pretty much the same, well, apart from the front bit, but they work very differently when powered by redstone. A dispenser is what its name suggests. It dispenses objects, but what makes it different to a dropper is that if the item inside of it has a use, and there's something in front of it to use it on, it'll use it. So like shears, if there's a shear in the dispenser and there's a sheep in front of it, the dispenser will shear the sheep for you when activated, which is pretty cool. But what it can't do is manually place items on the ground like carpets or seats. In those circumstances, it'll just throw the items on the floor to you as if they were dropped by a player. This doesn't apply with all things, but you can play around with that. A dropper, however, always drops the item and doesn't use it even if there's something to use it on. That is a big difference, and it's a good thing you're aware of it because otherwise things could have gone very badly. And that's about it for this part 1 of the redstone tips. Of course, I haven't managed to put every single redstone tip I know in here, but stick around because if we get to 500 subscribers or the next milestone, I might release the next sequel of this video. I haven't done a redstone video in a while, so I hope you learned something. And if you're new, I don't really do a lot of redstone videos nowadays because of the SME I'm currently on, but I'll try to add some redstone stuff to my videos. This took me a while to create, so I'll be happy to see you drop a like on the video. That's all I asked for. And I'll see you around in a Zap SMP video, or maybe even another redstone tutorial video. Who knows? Anyway guys, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and ladies and gentlemen, good night.